Taipei, the capital of Taiwan, and a city that is probably not on top of your list of must-see cities. You might be thinking that Taiwan is just a generic version of the real China, and the real China's bigger and more famous cities may have moved Taipei further and further down your list. Taipei might actually not be topping any of your list, but I hope I can change your mind about that. Okay, before we get started, I'd feel like I did you a disservice if I didn't mention something. The Taiwanese women are beautiful. All I'm gonna say is that you're gonna see more than a few Vivian Songs walking around. One of the most confusing things about Taiwan is whether or not it's Taiwan. I've got to admit, it is a bit confusing and has got me into more than a couple of arguments, so be careful who you talk to about this. But come on, if Taiwan is China, then how does it have its own flag, Olympic team, military, and government? Well, in theory, they are China, but in practice, Taiwan is a very different place from its mainland counterpart. If the whole one China, two systems thing is confusing, I linked a couple of great videos in the description that I think explain Taiwan's history really well. For the purposes of this video, just know that they are very different places. Mainland Chinese grew up under communist government, while Taiwan a republic. So while they may still all be Han Chinese, everything is different in Taiwan, from the way people act to the way the city operates and even the food. Which brings me to my next point. The Taiwanese people are by far my favorite thing about Taiwan. I am not kidding. I have thoroughly enjoyed every Taiwanese person I've ever met, and I was not disappointed upon arriving in Taipei. I found the people friendly and easy to talk to. If you are an outgoing person, it is not going to be hard to meet people here, and not in the way it is easy to meet people in some of the other Asian countries where the locals are more or less just starstruck to be around a foreigner. Taiwanese have a great mixture of influences that make their people so unique in Asia. They're basically all Han Chinese, but they migrated to Taiwan before the communist takeover of China. That alone makes the people a lot different from your average Chinese person. Taiwan was also under Japanese occupation for 50 years, and as a result, their society is heavily influenced by the Japanese culture. You can see it in just about everything from fashion to behavior. One of the first things I noticed was on escalators. 100% of the time, without fail, if you stand on the escalator, you stand on the right side in a perfect line, giving room for everyone who is in a hurry to walk up the left side. This may not seem like much, but when you compare it to the public transportation behavior in mainland China, it becomes glaringly apparent. A friend of mine told me that there is a saying going around Taiwan right now: the most beautiful views in Taiwan are the people. A saying that couldn't be more true in my opinion. If you visit Taipei and you don't hang out with some locals, you're definitely missing out. Probably the most famous thing in Taipei is the night markets. When I told my Taiwanese friends I was coming to Taipei, they all had 20 different night markets and restaurants to recommend to me. Night markets are awesome, and they're the place to be after the sun goes down. On weekends they can become extremely crowded, but that is part of the fun. The sounds, the smells, the people crowding around the most popular food stands all come together to make a very unique experience. You'll probably find yourself in a night market every night of your stay. Now, Taiwanese food is good, don't get me wrong, but they don't like it as spicy as the mainland Chinese. So for me personally, I prefer the heat that the mainland dishes offer. Real quick, I just want to say that the public transportation is solid. I mean, it's no surprise for a developed city in Asia, but you can easily navigate the entire city using their metro system. And there's less than 3 million people in the city, so not only can you get on without being packed on by a transportation employee, but you can actually get a seat a lot of the time. I was trying to get a feel for the prices while I was there, because if you talk to people about Taiwan, they're probably going to excitedly tell you that it's really cheap there. Well, it depends on what you are comparing it to, obviously. For instance, it's a heck of a lot cheaper in Taipei than Iceland, but when you compare it to other cheap countries in Asia, it's definitely more expensive. I mean, Taipei is not going to bankrupt you. I was paying about $11 for a hostel, $1 or so every time I used the metro, and about $4 each meal. That might sound fairly inexpensive to you, but just know I usually grab the cheapest option available. So if you want to stay in a luxury area and eat at nice restaurants, just know that it's going to be significantly more expensive than that. My prices are usually meant for the backpacking, hostel staying, nomad type. Taiwanese speak Mandarin, but you will find that a significant amount of the people speak English, and a lot of the time it is completely fluent English. Parents put a lot of emphasis on their children learning English, so most of the younger generation can speak it really well. You won't have a problem ordering food, asking directions, or finding someone to have a nice chat with, all in English. Now, when this becomes a problem is if you are considering coming here to study Mandarin. You might find yourself falling back on English to get by in your day-to-day life. Whereas if you were studying in a tier 2 city in mainland China, it might be hard for you to find someone who speaks any English. Another thing to consider is that they use traditional Chinese. The other billion people who speak Mandarin all use a much easier version of the writing called simplified. I spoke with some expats who are studying here at the Mandarin Training Center, and they told me MTC only teaches traditional, so something to keep in mind when choosing a place to study. As far as the city itself goes, Taipei is on par with my favorite cities in the world. It's not overcrowded, its culture is rich and unique, it has some beautiful scenery, some great hikes, and the air quality is much better than other Asian countries. I would even go as far as to say the air is a non-issue. A lot of times a city will start to get boring after a couple of days, but I actually changed my plans so that I could stay in Taipei longer, and I still felt like I was leaving too early. One thing I will say is be careful what time of year you visit, because I was here in the summer and it is almost dangerously hot. I felt like I was drinking 2 gallons of water a day and sweating out 3. Well guys, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.